Hey guys, Jimmy here with MP Systems, and today we're here to talk to you about pull tongs. First thing we're going to be looking at here while we're inspecting our pull tongs is our lifting eye. Make sure it's not elongated. We're going to inspect our shackles, make sure they're still moving freely and attached properly and locked. No cracks in it. Also, we're going to be looking at our barbs and the neck. Make sure there's no cracks or breaks in the metal, and make sure our barbs are sharp. Not too sharp to where they're going to stab you, but sharp enough to penetrate the wood. All right, last thing we're going to be looking at is the pull tong load rating. These tongs aren't made for what you think they are. Even the strongest ones we have that are made for transmission can only lift 5,000 pounds. So instead of pull tongs being an option to lift poles and manipulate poles and load them, we need to use a setting chain whenever possible. It needs to be our first option. The pull tongs will always be our last option. Another thing you can use is a wire sling. So we need to be aware of all our pinch points and crush points while loading and unloading poles and using the pull tongs. Be mindful of where you're placing your hands while you're installing and uninstalling your rigging. Make sure the operator has his hands off the controls as to not jar the pull tongs and get your fingers caught. While we are loading these poles and moving them around, we need to make sure everyone stays out of the drop zone. Also, while we're installing the rigging there, we need to make sure our pull tongs stay perpendicular to the pole. As you can see in the video here, once the safety sling is installed, it's a little bit loose. The main purpose of it is just as a safety catch. In case the pull tongs give out, it won't allow the pole to come crashing to the ground. While picking a pole, make sure the weight is pretty well balanced where you can manipulate the pole with just your fingertips. Uh, Keep the pole as low to the ground as possible while maintaining good body mechanics. So if you're doing an activity where it makes sense to use the tongs, make sure you know your ratings, and a couple things to remember when using them. Only use it as little as necessary. If you're picking a pole off the ground or off the pile, use a block under it if you can. Use a sling as your first option. If you're going to be flying around, make sure we're using our secondary safety sling. If we are loading them on poles or trailers. If we're going to be shotgunning a pole, make sure we have a pole setting chain on it and not the pull tongs. These pull tongs are a very dangerous tool, but a very useful tool. So let's make sure we're using them properly, have good communication, and stay safe out there.